Good afternoon, everybody. We're going to have some fun today. We're going to talk about how our city's doing in our areas, and one of the things I love to talk about is the collaboration and partnerships we have throughout our city, and that includes other cities, our county, our university, our Chamber of Commerce, the Moscow School District, and on and on and on. And so you're going to see through this presentation, I'm going to refer back to that and make certain that you don't take it lightly, because everything that people do in our fine city is a big, big deal to Bill Lambert, because there we have it. So we're going to move on. This is a picture up here of our present day city council, as well as myself and two former council people, Walter Steed at the top, who was defeated, and then the late John Weber, who passed in November, as we all know. And so we've got a new, fresh group. It's kind of fun because I got 4 women that I get a chance to work with, and that's kind of exciting because they can kind of tone Bill down a little bit, much more than the guys can, so that's a good thing. So there we have it. Let's go on to city staff. Some of these slides, incidentally, I'm going to go through fast, and some of them I'm going to spend more time on because of the importance, but I want to go through this as quick as I can so that we have time for questions and an answer session at the end. This is our city staff, department managers. We have 9 departments. We have over 153 employees. Now 153 employees, ladies and gentlemen, it's a ratio of 5.8 employees per 1,000 populace in our city, which is a little bit lower than our sister cities in the area. Not that much lower, but we're right in the ballpark on that. And of course, it leads off there with Gary Reed and administration, and we got arts, community development, public works, police, of course, park and rec, information systems, fire, and human resources. Okay, I want to show you where you're at for every dollar. We broke this down in dollars because it's easier to equate. And for us here in Moscow, this is your city property tax, those for you that own homes. And right there, for every dollar of property tax that comes in, we get 26 cents of that. And then, of course, you can see the rest. You can see the Moscow School District. You can see some bonds. And, of course, our city bond at .01, which will be retired this summer. And I'll talk a little bit about that as we go along. But I just wanted to show folks this because frequently people don't understand that when they pay property taxes, it goes to not only the municipality you live in, but your other government agencies within your area and your section. And we're also going to say, so if we raise the property tax 3% on the city of Moscow residents, it's 3% of the 26 cents. It's not 3% of the overall. So if you think about that, if you take a look at that and say, okay, I've got $1,000 in property tax, you're looking at 26% is $260, 3% of that is $7.80 for you math wizards out there. So I'm just kind of giving you a feel for how it works. Okay, Jen, let's move on to the next one. And this photo here, this pie shape, talks about where the money goes for various things. And of course, we have enterprise funds, we have debt service. And I talked earlier about that little sliver of debt service with the HELOC bond, which will be retired this summer. We will be debt-free from that. We do have a revenue generating bond still from our sewer plant, but we're going to talk about that later on as well. But you can see where monies goes for our police department, debt service, all the way through. And I don't want to spend a whole bunch of time on this because this can lose you. But, oh, by the way, these are going to be on our website. This entire presentation will be on our website, both the hard copy as well as we're videoing it. So if you want to re-see this, you'll be able to do that. And if you have friends out there that haven't been able to see it, let them see it too, because we want to make sure everybody gets a chance to view this, because it's our community after all. It's very, very important. Okay, let's go to funding efficiencies. This is one of my favorite charts, and this has to do with our eco-driver system. And 2017 was a banner year for us, and frequently throughout this presentation I'm going to talk about city staff, because city staff does an absolute awesome job, and I'm starting with the administrator all the way down to the last guy that works on our street department or whoever in parks. Everybody in out of our 153 employees contribute to this city. But what this shows you, if you look here, this is 2012, And back in the day, we used to use 4% more fuel year over year, every single year. We went on the eco-driver system, and as you can see, as this thing went down, if you take a look at this in 2017, which was a brutal winter, that's this year. Here we go, right here. I mean, isn't that amazing? So what we've been able to do, ladies and gentlemen, is we use 2011 as our benchmark. And since 2017, we used 44,278 gallons of fuel. Now, I want to give you a lot of end date on numbers, but it's important for you to see. It's important to see where your money does go and what we do as a city to save as much as we can. But if you look at this span over the period that we started, if you go back in here, that has been a savings of 43,356 gallons of fuel. Ladies and gentlemen, and at $3 a gallon, that equates to $130,000. And you're going to see some of these things as we go through this presentation, because sometimes as a city, folks just don't get a chance to recognize that and see this. And so when we can save money, we can take that money and we can use it for something else. And I'll give you some examples as we go through this presentation today. But I thought this is kind of a cool one. This is where this represents if we would have used the 4%. This is where we would have been. Isn't that amazing? I mean, that's well over 20% right there. So that's pretty cool. I just thought I wanted to show you that. Okay, funding, strategic initiatives. You know, we started in 2007, at that time I was on council, I was council president, to 2014. We as a council had 80 goals, which just drove me absolutely nuts because most of them we couldn't get done. And it was the warm and fuzzy things that each one of us liked, and sometimes didn't really have a necessity for our city and our citizens, not always. And so we started the strategic planning, priority-based budgeting right in here, and you can see what happens as we went forward. And if you take this bar graph here over the last 10 years, that average is a little over $1 million that we spend on different things in this city. But with the strategic planning, priority-based budgeting, we do it on things that we've described. And you're going to see some external and internal challenges that we have here in the city. And that's where we make the decisions. So the deal is, it isn't the counselor with the most things on their wish list. It's us as the group working together to get things accomplished, and that includes our city staff. Now, it took a little bit to get going on this, but we've made great strides, and I'm very, very proud of that. But you're going to hear me talk about strategic planning and priority-based budgeting because there's some folks out there that actually have taken our role and our acronym, and we love it because any organization, I don't care what whether you're a business or you're a municipality or whether you're a county or whatever, university, it doesn't matter because this really makes the difference in where you spend your dollars and get the most bang for your buck. Okay, let's go to major challenge areas. This is external, and you'll see some of the things, Tier 1, Tier 2, Tier 3. Tier 1 was the items that were of most concern, deteriorating pavement conditions. For about a decade, we had struggles with our paving here in Moscow, Idaho. I don't know if any of you guys recognize that or not, but you probably did. And we're going to talk more about paving. So that was one big area that we focused in on. And there was other things in here too. We were concerned with the declining enrollment at the University of Idaho because we know that students bring money. And Steve Peterson, when he does any kind of economic development, he'll tell you a student's worth 50 grand in the multiplier effect for what it happens for you out there that own businesses. And that's a big deal for us. So our university, which is one of our partners, and we're in collaboration with them, frequently doing things, we knew that we needed to work on these. And some of these things we kind of got as we're going along. Inadequate enforcement and radio infrastructure, we're working on that. Deteriorating waste collection systems. You're going to hear more about that when I talk about our recycling center and our bond. And declining revenues, which was jeopardizing some of the service levels that we were doing, ladies and gentlemen. So you can see these were areas of importance, external, not within the city. Let's go to the internal ones now, Jen. Okay, we know, ladies and gentlemen, we have an inefficient law, staffing to meet the community demand, and it's not that we're terrible on this, but what happens is where we are in tough shape is we simply need a new police department. The police department we have on 4th Street is inadequate. It used to be a dairy at one time, and we have took this thing and piecemealed it for decades. At one time, when I first came to Moscow in '77, it was a city hall, and I don't know how many people here remember that, but it was a city hall crammed in with the police department. And so this thing is a big thing, and we're going to talk about the bond, like I said, but we know we need to work on these things. And there's a number of these different things that we need to work on. And this came up from master plans that we have put in place. Oh, by the way, I've said this before. I don't know if I've said it to this group, but I'm going to say it to you guys now so you can remember this. Doing the things we do at the city is like eating an elephant. You're going to be able to eat your lunch today, but you're not going to be able to eat an elephant. What I'm telling you is it takes time to get these things done. But what you do is you never give up. You keep chipping away, and you do it time after time after time after time. And as we go along, we can get better and better and better at it, and we can solve a lot of our issues. And that's exactly what we're doing. That's the direction that the city of Moscow, ladies and gentlemen, is headed. Okay. Pullman-Moscow Regional Airport. Oh my God, this is one of my favorite things. Tony's there somewhere. Where you at, Tony? Wave your hand around. Tony's back there. He's our executive director with Sherry, our secretary as well, Sherry Gentry. What we've done here in this airport, ladies and gentlemen, is absolutely phenomenal. They have moved 5.8 million cubic yards of dirt so far. Isn't that a big number? And we got another 500,000 to go, which we're going to do this year. But you'll see what we've got. It's hard for me to read that, so I'm going to read off my cheat sheets here. Storm drain pipe. We put in 6,900 lineal feet of storm drain pipe. 3,100 feet of box culvert. Because that was a swampy area, especially out on the east end of that airport. Under drains, 12,200 lineal feet. Temp access route, 9,800 square yards. Paving, this is something that we're going to do on the paving. We recently put in a new parking lot. I believe it was 105 stations that we put in because our parking was terrible out at the airport, and we had to add to it. And geez, we immediately started filling it up. So it's telling us that we've got a ways to go on that, folks, as well. The fun thing about this airport, guess what? We're going to start paving this thing this summer. And I'm really excited about it. And it is going to be completed October of 2019. Which is very, very exciting because this, ladies and gentlemen, is our only great source of transportation in the Moscow-Pullman region. It's the only thing that we've got. We got no freeway. We do not have a waterway. We do not have a rail system. This thing here is going to develop into what will make us a hub that is envious of lots of folks. And I want to say something too. My friend Glenn Johnson and his team from Pullman have been absolutely excellent to work with, as well as our other partners. University of Idaho has contributed to this program. Our county commissioners, of course, the city of Moscow. Ed and Beatrice Schweitzer donated $1 million out of their private funds. They also, from their corporation, pledged $1 million for this. Washington State University, $1 million. So we have got the folks that know this thing is very, very important to us in the future of what it's going to be for this fine city of ours, as well as Pullman and the whole police region. It's a big deal for us. Let's go on to the wetlands. This is one of the things I'm probably most proud of. We had, with all the wet, marshy area out on the east side of that airport, we had this time of year, folks, when it would thaw, we had ducks out there. Swimming. This isn't the airport, by the way, but we had ducks out there swimming around, and so we had to do mitigation on that with both the our ERA as well as what we're going to do with the wetland mitigation. Well, this right here is a wetland mitigation that we were able to do and use, and it's really slick. It's 113.6 acres of new intervening. The camera cells, this is over towards Colfax, ladies and gentlemen. So we had to find a place that we could do this before we could put in those box culverts I just talked about. And so it's a big deal for us. But this, so I wanted to share it. We got an award, Best in State Gold Award for Social, Economic, and Sustainable. That was pretty cool to be able to get that award because it was a bunch of hard work by a bunch of people. And you'll hear me talk about a bunch of people. Ladies and gentlemen, none of this stuff is ever done by Bill Lambert alone. It doesn't happen that way, nor does it happen by any other single person. It happens with a group, an army of folks that work together to get things accomplished. And like I said, that starts with our city staff. It was at the University of Idaho, the Chamber of Commerce, our county commissioners, our Moscow School District. So we work together to make things happen for us. Okay, collaboration and partnerships. Like I said, you're going to hear this a number of times. I hope it doesn't make you sick because Bill Lambert really believes this. 5 years ago when I ran for mayor, this is what I ran it on because we had too many things. We had lots of great people and lots of great organizations in this community, but we didn't have anybody working together to accomplish a similar goal, to finish things up, to make our area the best it could possibly be. This community university strategic plan, the CUSP that we came out with, the branding, this, has been a huge thing for all of us, whether it be the University of Idaho or Chamber of Commerce or downtown area, the city of Moscow or whatever. Now that doesn't mean, folks, we still have the heart of the arts. That'll always be a portion of Moscow, but it does not just define only Moscow. We have a bunch of different things it does. Oh, by the way, transition to chamber, Jenny, where are you at, Jenny? Jenny back there became our new chamber executive director in 2017. Yeah, give her a round of applause. She's done a good job. And she replaced Gina Teruscio, who went on to run PEP, which is Partnership for Economic Prosperity. And Gina couldn't be with us today because she's in Coeur d'Alene working on something with a group. And this woman has got a tremendous amount of energy to do this. So we have the right person in this. But this is kind of an exciting thing, and we're moving forward with it. And oh, by the way, I said this earlier, there's going to be on our website, YouTube, as well as Facebook, and on our Moscow City site, as well as a hard copy if you want to print it out. Okay, let's go to parks and playgrounds. I love this. I want to talk about some of the things that we did, which was fun. A couple of years ago, we decided we've got like 8 pieces of property that have never been developed into parks. Is Dwight here somewhere? Did he show up today? He's not here with us. Well, anyway, I made a statement to City Supervisor Gary Reedner. I said, why in the world do we always have all these chunks of land and we do nothing with it? Because every time a development happens in our city, you got to have a parcel of that land for a park. And what we do, we have the tendency to have these grandiose things that cost a lot of money, but we discovered a way where we could put down a playground, a couple of park benches, picnic table, and a pathway through it and seed some grass. I mean, does that make sense or what? And so what we're able to do, and we have got on our master plan, I think there's 8 of these things slated over the next few years to get accomplished. This right here is Indian Hills. Anybody live in Indian Hills? I talked to a number of people this fall in Indian Hills and they absolutely loved it. Now I'm going to share something with you. These little parks cost anywhere, it depends, $50,000 to $100,000. And if you go to the outside to get somebody to put these things together for you, you're looking at, depending on the size of it, anywhere from $10,000 to $20,000. We have got our own staff. We've got a certified playground equipment person, Calvin Macy, that does this, and he has a crew, and they put these together. So every time we do this, we saved about $14,000, ladies and gentlemen, on this one alone, right here. And the significance in that is that we are constantly looking for ways that we can save money and be more efficient as a city. And as we go along with our budget, and you'll see this, some of these things in our budget, because we've done things in our budget we've never been able to do in the city of Moscow. And it isn't because we're just spending money like a bunch of wild people. It has some sense to it, because remember now, we're going back to strategic planning, priority-based budgeting, so there's a reason for it. It's just not, oh my God, The mayor's happy about doing this, doing that. No, that's not how it works. It's about making things happen for us. Jen, let's go to the street projects. Because I'm really happy about this. Our street projects, you see that number there, $1.157 million? That is what we put in the streets last year in the city of Moscow. Now, this doesn't have to do anything with the state. We're going to show you another number on that. But what we've done is we've consistently put more money in streets, street repair, resurfacing, slurry seals than we've ever done it. And the street crew have came up, and the team through Public Works has been able to consistently make this work better and better. And keep in mind now, too, think about this, we're spent that kind of money on street repair and doing new streets, so on and so forth, but yet we save some money on less fuel usage. So you see kind of how we're getting a double whammy, you're getting more for your buck right here. This stuff, ladies and gentlemen, is important. It's no different than running, on this end of it, this is where my business sense comes in. I kind of like this sort of thing because this stuff doesn't go away. Now, you see down here it says grind and overlays 3rd Street, and that number, I don't remember what it is, Jen, 150, hard for me to read this with my trifocals. 151,781, A Street, 55,000, Joseph Street, 103,000. That's what we spent last year on those 3 projects. Oh, by the way, and we'll talk about the 3rd Street Bridge as well as the 3rd Street corridor because we got some fun facts about that. And I got to share with you, we're putting in some additional monies for these things. And I'll give you a figure here pretty soon, but a special note on our sewer trunk line, the phase 4, $235,000 in street work and an additional $930,000 in sewer trunk line infrastructure. And that was down there on 6th Street down towards the university. We had a dilapidated sewer system, and folks, we need to continue to work on our infrastructure. Remember that thing I told you we can't eat an elephant? Well, this is part of it. We need to plug away and work on this as we go. There's many municipalities in our state and others that are millions and millions of dollars behind in infrastructure because they haven't kept up on it. And it's because local folks, local politicians haven't had the stones to talk about doing the 3% tax and what they were going to use it for. No, okay, well, listen, everybody that knows Bill Lambert, I'm pretty candid on this stuff. So the point is whenever we take it, we're going to tell you what we're going to do with it. Because don't you think that's fair, so you know? And so that's what we're doing. Jen, let's go to the next slide. And this is, look at this. Dun, da, 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 dun. This is what we used to spend on street repair. Look at this. And that bumped up a little bit here, bumped up a little bit there, bumped up there. But then it went down for a couple of years. But look at this. Kaboom, boom, boom, boom. Now, the last 2 years, of course, we have received more tax money because our legislators in Boise thought it upon themselves to raise the gas tax a few cents. Wasn't that great of them? And so what this represents, people, the extra gas tax we get is about $250,000. But look at this number here. $700,000, and this year that we're in right now, $827,000. Right here before this thing took in, we would have been up around $500 or $550. This, through strategic planning and priority-based budgeting, is how we're figuring out how to do this. How we can get more for the bang with our buck. That's what we're doing. And we're going to continue hammering away. This figure, I'm going to be really happy when we can get up to $1 million, and $1 million every single year is spent not only on the grants and the different things that we can get from the state and so on and so forth, but that's money that comes right out of our budget, out of our general fund. This is exciting stuff. So when you have people moaning to you about our streets, tell them, you know what? They're working on it. In fact, invite them to the City of Moscow's website and have them look for themselves. I mean, that thing doesn't lie. That's what I love about graphs and figures. They don't lie. Numbers don't lie, ladies and gentlemen. I'd say only politicians do, but that wouldn't be very appropriate to say. But this is facts. Okay, Jen. Oh, before we move back to that a second. Got to share with you. I talked about the 3rd Street Bridge and the 3rd Street corridor. And we've had a little angst over that, ladies and gentlemen. You probably don't know if you know that or not. But I got to share with you. We're putting in 1,031 feet of new sidewalk from the creek, Paradise Creek, all the way on the areas that we do not have sidewalks, we're putting sidewalks in. And as a city, we put in a grant. We got $250,000 grant that was announced yesterday for that. What do you think of that? Isn't that cool? $250,000. So remember that $827,000? This has nothing to do with sidewalks. This is just street repair. One other number that I'm really excited about this one. This is through our local strategic initiative awards that we put in for 2018 management preservation. We got awarded $477,450. What do you think of that? So we got $700,000 to work on that 3rd Street corridor. Now that's not the bridge, that's the corridor. Getting in new sidewalks. And of course from East City Park, you go 2 blocks to Polk, my God, you better have something with some sturdy wheels on it because you bounce all over the doggone place because it is rough. Well, we're going to tear that up this summer and we're going to fix it. Costs money to do that, folks. And oh, by the way, we would have done that whether we would have had the 3rd Street corridor and the bridge or anything. This is just part of the process. But we're also going to work on some of the infrastructure underneath, some of the utility, because as we go along on these street projects, we want to be able to make sure that our utilities underneath are correct. So that a few years down the road, when we have a brand new nice road and somebody comes along, we have a problem, we have to dig it up with a backhoe, oh my God. So we're working on that, and that's Public Works are coming up with these ideas. Really terrific. Anyway, I was excited, I had to share that with you. So when anybody tells you, ladies and gentlemen, that this 3rd Street bridge and corridor is costing over $1 million, remember we got $700,000 of it in grants. Isn't that great? Just thought I'd share that with you. I'm excited about that. Okay, and by the way, if we wouldn't have had those 2 projects, we wouldn't have got the money. It's as simple as that. Okay, this, our ITD. Talk about partnerships and collaboration. ITD, look at this number down here, folks. $3.992 million. That's what they spent last year. Highway 8, US 95 South and North. And you guys remember the big hump at the Corner Club? The big hump is no longer there. They fixed that for us. You guys remember that? Boy, when it got a little bit slick, if you went a little too fast, it was like you did one of these things. I'm going to tell you how this happened, folks. We have got a great working relationship with ITD. They consider us partners. And it's because we've been very supportive of them the past 4 or 5 years. And everything I've told them that we would do, we've done. And that goes from the first month that I was the mayor and we had a megaload meeting and oh my God, we had some people with some angst about that. And I said, don't worry about a thing, I'll run everything, I'll control it. And I did. And there were some folks that weren't very happy with me, but I really didn't care because we were talking about infrastructure safety as well as safety themselves. And my idea was if we had our city engineers and they had the state engineers from ITD, those guys are smart enough to know how to figure this out. They can tell us. And our officers, our chief of police, as well as our sheriff, if they're okay with it from a safety standpoint, why wouldn't we? Now, I will say this. I did tell folks that, all I care about, and there was some lady really giving me angst about the salmon and Coeur d'Alene River or something. I said, well, she says, doesn't that bother you? I said, no. What bothers me is the city limit at the south end of town, the north end of town, the west end of town, and the east end of town, because that's my jurisdiction. And ladies and gentlemen, that's all I really care about. Now, that doesn't mean we don't work with our county commissioners, of course, but the focus is on that. So, okay, let's go on to the next one, Jim. Oh my gosh, Gritman's got to be here. They're always at these functions. Where's the Gritman table? Back there. These guys, talk about another partnership, collaboration. These are some of the things they did. They worked on Main Street and 8th Avenue. Got a brand new, beautiful building. And what an exciting thing. We've got 80 WWAMI students here. 80 first year and second year meds kids here. And they're not kids, they're grown-ups, but I call them kids because they're all under 40, so my kids are 40. But what a fun thing, I got a chance to go up and talk to these young upcoming doctors, both women and men, and which is one of my favorite things to do is get up in front and talk. I don't know if you guys noticed that or not, but that's kind of how I like to do things. But this is a big deal. this building here that the Gritman has put in, they're going to be up on the 3rd floor. You're also going to have an oncology department in here. This is going to be great because down the road we're going to have our own oncologist here in Moscow. And ladies and gentlemen, my late wife battled cancer for 4 years. And I used to have to take her to Kootenai Medical Center to get her chemotherapy and all the checkups and things. It was murder, especially during the winter months. So this is a big deal for our whole area, for every one of us. It is something that I'm very passionate about. So good job, Gritman. Now you kind of get the flavor for when I talk about partnerships and collaboration and working together. We work together on these things. Oh, by the way, it doesn't always mean we have smooth sailing. No, it doesn't mean that. It means that we talk things through and we get things accomplished. That's the important thing. And so that we can move together as a community. So we're all working together on this stuff. Okay, did I miss something there, Jen? I got so wound up about the medical building. Oh, Peekaboo Estates. Lanning Lane, Orchard Avenue, Peekaboo Estates. We talked about a little bit about that, and that has to do with some of the things. And we're going to see a slide on Morgan Orchard Playground coming up. I'm really excited about this because this is a really new development. I can't really wait to talk about that. Let's go on to well 10. This thing we've been working on for several years. And this is going to help us out during tough times. It's 991 feet below surface. And this is what we predict to pump gallons per minute. And this is what well 9, which is our big kahuna right now. And so this is going to give us some availability. This is going to be online in 2019, folks. A big deal for us. They got emergency power. So we've updating this. And remember, I kept talking about infrastructure and things we're doing. This is periodically you will see your water bill raise, your sewage thing raise a little bit. It's not a huge thing, but this is where we get the money to pay for these things. And it's critical to our community. I made a statement earlier about cities that had lacked this, and I'm on a District 2 Board of Association Idaho Cities. And I can't believe how many of those cities have absolute angst about what they can do because they haven't been staying up with their infrastructure. Some of them are as far back as $130 million. They'll never get caught up. And if they raise those rates to offset this, they will get hung because it's going to double and triple the rates. And so as we're going along, we take a little bite as we're going along. It's a heck of a lot less painful, folks, and we can judge for it and we can budget for it. Okay, Jen, let's hit farmers market. This is kind of fun. The impact on our farmers market, 3.94 million to 5.4 million economic impact a year that this has. And this talks about our entrepreneur incubators and all the different things and how brick and mortar has came out from some of those folks that started their businesses in the farmers market. This is a big deal for us. 6 years running, we're the #1 farmers market in the state of Idaho. That's kind of fun to talk about that. You know, and look, I'm the first guy to say, had nothing to do with me. Had nothing to do with me. It had to do with the team that figured it out and consistently work on this thing and make it happen. That's the important thing, folks. We got some other things going on. Sit back to that for a second, Jen. I want to talk about National Night Out. Whoop. There we go. We got Art Walk coming in June. Jen Pivner's doing these slides for me, and she has no clue where I'm going from time to time. So you got to thank her when we're done here because she stays up with me pretty doggone good. But anyway, this National Night Out with the police, that's a cool thing. Our Art Walk that happens in mid-June. I'm looking forward to that. These are events coming up, holiday tree lighting and parade. And I got to share with you, I had nothing to do with this either, but we do have a lady that did. She was huge on it. Her name is Heather Nicolai. I just love this woman because she had the passion to do this and brought this into my office way before in the summer months. It was about 90 degrees out, and she was the one that spearheaded it. She's a modest woman that does not want any praise whatsoever. And it's because of her that made this happen. And this tree lighting has been a huge success in this community. I cannot tell you how many people constantly send in notes, letters, and talk about it. Isn't that kind of fun? And by the way, that parade, we had 42 floats and different things. About froze the night we did this out there because I'm one of the judges, but it keeps growing. But that's kind of stuff's a big deal for our downtown. That's a big deal for our city. So, okay, now we'll move on. Our volunteer fire department, 125 years, oh my God, these guys, and excuse me, ladies and gentlemen, men and women, I'm learning. I always use the word guys, I mean men and women, because we have lots of females on all kinds of things, but they make it happen for us. 100 dedicated volunteers. Incidentally, we just had one guy who had 47 years in, Kenny Robinson, who just retired. Can you imagine that? This guy was in there for 47 years. Amazing. But the fun thing about, and we have 7 paid staff on there. We have an addition of an EMS coordinator. We put that on in 2017. We added a staff member for that, so Debbie Carskellen didn't have to fool around with all the doggone forms, ordering all the baloney stuff. And so we got a person that does that for her, so then she can spend more time out training and developing her troops. Doesn't that make sense? Good ideas. Oh, you see this nice fire truck? I don't know if it's going to look like this or not, Gary. But we're going to get one in April. It's going to be delivered next month. I don't know if they'll let me drive it or not. My kids, I know my youngest son said, don't let the old man drive that thing, whatever you do. Told the fire chief that. But anyway, here's the point I want to make. This fire truck, $528,000, Gary. What was that thing? 500, around there. Okay, here's the point that I want to make. Through the strategic planning, priority-based budgeting, we bought that out of our budget and budgeted it in. We've never done that in our life here in Moscow, Idaho. We've always gone out to bonds to buy fire trucks. So we came along and we're doing this, and we're working on getting another one that we're going to order, so hopefully we'll get it sometime in 2019. I'm guessing maybe the fall of 2019, because all of our fire trucks are getting old, and we've got 4 of these things, and we know that we can't have them all come due and crummy at once. We need to work away, because if you replaced all those fire trucks, you're looking at well over $2 million, because the ladder truck's $1.2 million. And so you get these all together and you really have $2.7 million in today's dollars. And so one of the things I thought, this is absolutely crazy. We need to figure this out. And the team figured it out, ladies and gentlemen. That's how this is happening. And it's great. And I'll tell you what, it's good for our volunteers, our 100 dedicated volunteers, because we're giving them the up standard, good stuff that they need to protect our houses and our homes. And by the way, we get a good kick on our insurance rating on this. So those of you that have not dedicated money to the volunteer fire department, do it, because it's a good cause. It saves you whatever you give them on your insurance, because if we didn't have them, your insurance would be a lot higher. Or if they were rated below they were. So I just thought I'd throw that out there to you. This is the kind of fun stuff that I like to see that makes a difference in our community. Anybody been on a new website? Well, a couple. We have 2 people. Jen has been on our. Okay. I told you we had to have a little fun. We need to have this. We need to liven everybody up. This is 2018, ladies and gentlemen. Well, this right here, I said to Jen, I said, the first time I got on here and I looked at this, you know when you get on internet and you got this little circle goes round and round and round and round? That's what I thought that was. And I thought, I wonder if I'm not hooked up or whatever. Well, that's not it, folks. If you sign in there, all you got to do is type in what you want. City agenda, council meetings, a specific department. And we don't have a lower down screen, but for those of you, this is an absolute wonderful design that our staff put together and did, and I love it. And if you can teach Bill Lambert how to navigate this stuff, you can teach anybody. This is good. If I ever get stuck, I will have one of my grandchildren help me. Anyway, that is fun. Residential building activity. See right here, these huge spikes in 2004, 2005, 2006. When anybody that had 2 arms, 2 legs, blood run through their body could get $250,000 just on signing for it back in the day. And basically that's true. I mean, it's pretty doggone true, because we had folks that were falsifying things, and then boom, this thing crashed. This right here was the grove. That's why you see a big spike here. But we're starting to move up. You're going to have up and down years. This was 2017 from the residential end, so we're making some progress. But I tell you what, we'd rather be consistent, move up some, than this choppy thing is murder. Oh, in 2017, we got identity on the South Main coming, right, Jen? Commercial. Here's our commercial. Same kind of thing through this portion of the time. This right here was the ball fields and the school district remodel for this junior high. They did some at the high school and the play fields. That's what this big spike right here is. So we're working on those things, and we're getting them together. We're going to talk a little bit about moving forward with URAs. I want to explain a little bit of that to you folks as we go along here. How am I doing on time? Oh, I got lots of time. Let's look to 2018. Continued work towards strategic planning initiatives, 3rd Street, multimodal bridge enhancement, pavement maintenance. Remember, this is $872,000. I just got done telling you we had another $700,000 that we got in grants, so that's going to be close to almost over 1.5, close to 1.6 million bucks. That's a big number for us, folks. White Avenue underpass, that's very exciting. 3rd Street something, I have no idea what that. What's that, Jen? Is that grant that we got, the $470,000? That's a $477,000 thing. A Street improvements, Mountain View Road improvements. Oh, by the way, I'm going back to National League of Cities here in a couple of weeks, and Gary Reedner and I are going to track down folks from the Transportation Department for the United States of America, and we're going to talk to them about tiger grants. And one of these days, we've done this a number of different times, and anyway, when we go back to meet our congressional group, our U.S. senators, and our U.S. representatives, we always try to take some time to talk to those that we can get the biggest bang from. And that's one of the things that really helped us on our airport, because I got a chance to go to the Transportation Department. I got a chance to meet Anthony Fox and some of his lower lieutenants that work for him. And it's amazing. One of them, Edgar, the second guy in command with FAA, I invited him out to our airport, which is unheard of for a dinky little airport like us. Well, guess what? He came here December of 2016. Flew, told the guys in Seattle he's flying into Seattle, and they had all this stuff lined up for him to go to Portland, to look at Seattle, to go up the West Coast, down the West Coast, all over the place. And he said, no, I want to go to Moscow Pullman. The mayor there invited me. And so that was kind of a fun thing. And now the reason I tell you this story is you never know what you can get. And one of these days, we're going to trip them up, and we're going to get a tiger grant to fix that mountain viewed road on both sides. I know it's coming. So we just need to keep working on it. And that is the stuff that I like to do, because it makes a big deal for all of us. It just makes our city better. Blackbird Crossing, we had moaners on this for, I don't know how many years, Gary, 10 years maybe? We had, seemed like it was $7,800, $800, and we had $7,800 that was donated, I don't know, 10 years ago. And of course, that wasn't enough money to really make that paving project. This is what it's going to look like when it's done. You see this? We got the cement, and we're going to put a bench in there. So we took our money, and this is the sort of thing that the guys at Parks and Rec do. I said, well, hey, how come we don't flatten that out, get the thing ready, lay a little cement, and, you know, then we probably got some people out there that wouldn't mind volunteer planting a tree or something. Because this is a very giving community, ladies and gentlemen. So this sort of thing, that's the kind of stuff we look at putting together to make happen for us. And so the bikers that get to ride on that trail is pretty cool. Let's see, is this the Morgan? Yeah, Morgan Orchard. You see this right here? Peekaboo Estates have got a new development, and they're going to get this playground. And I got to share with you, Dwight Curtis brought it to our attention that City Hall, that he was able to buy this at a discount and saved about $8,000 on it. But not only that, Calvin and his team, who will put this thing together, will save us another $8,000 or $10,000 putting that thing together. Put a little seed in here, and away we go. But this, folks, when we do things like this, did you think a little kid that's 5 years old cares how much if you have an amphitheater and a park? They want to swing, they want to play, they want to raise heck, and they want to have a good time. And that's really what these things are designed for, is kids. And so this is what we're doing, and this is how we're moving forward on this stuff. It's a big deal to us. Okay, Jen, South Legacy Crossing, Main Street expansion. You can see we've had the Legacy Crossing, and we're going towards Main Street. We've got a lot of things that we know we got issues with downtown, because that infrastructure downtown was put in 35 years ago. And so we know we need planters and benches and light poles, and the exposed aggregate is kind of getting beat up. So we need to do some work on this. And this is something we may be able to do some of this with conjunction with the URA as well. You know, our downtown Moscow, Jenny had mentioned about doing a cleanup for Jazz Fest. We'll do another cleanup right before the University of Idaho graduates downtown, because we're proud of our town. We want to make sure and give it the absolute best light that we can, ladies and gentlemen, so it looks good. People that come to this town deserve that, and the people who live here in this town deserve it as well. And so it's kind of fun to be out on charge of that. I got to share something with you. We put in a downtown bathroom. You guys remember that? Well, I'm going to tell you what happens, folks, because that's kind of a shocker. A guy by the name of David Pierce, Dr. David Pierce, did some research on me, and the very first time that the downtown bathroom was talked about in Moscow, Idaho, was 1917. 1917, and it took us 100 years to get there. I'm not kidding you. I'm not making this stuff up. This is amazing. And so, how did we get that downtown bathroom put together? You know, some of the things I've talked about on being able to save monies on other things and being fruitful with what we do with our money. We took it out of capital projects, ladies and gentlemen. We didn't have to borrow. We had the money, we was able to do it. And we moved forward. That's part of the strategic planning, priority-based budgeting I'm talking about. And now we got a nice downtown bathroom. It's great for farmers market. It's great for any kind of an event. And my God, you know, this town should have had a downtown bathroom. Maybe 100 years ago, I don't know, a long time ago, but we've got it. So I just wanted to point that out. Let's go to the South Industrial Park, Jen. This, ladies and gentlemen, is the next big thing for us. And I got to share with you, we currently have roughly 7 acres of zoned land for industrial users. A measly 7 acres. Now, how in the world, we've got folks from Schweitzer here. Anybody from Schweitzer here? Okay, there's a lady back there from Schweitzer Schweitzer is one of our partners. They're one of our collaborators. They do wonderful work for us. But just suppose we have somebody that is a supplier of Schweitzer that was looking for a spot to plop down 20 or 30 acres of some kind of stuff that they make that Schweitzer can use. Does that make sense to you? So we need to get this industrial park designed so that we've got it in front of us so we can move forward. This stuff, as we move forward, ladies and gentlemen, this isn't just in the next few years. This is going to be ongoing 50, 60, 70 years, and most of us are dead. Isn't that great? Because the catch of it is it's going to move our town forward in our area. We only live so long, so. I mean, I hope I live to be 100. My kids deserve that. Anyway, these are the things that we need to do, and we got a good team working on this. I'm very, very excited about that. And so we need to be able to have the availability. I remember the day when I was on council and Toyota wanted to put a car lot in here, and we didn't have the room for them. We didn't have the land for them. And I was absolutely livid. I said, you got to be kidding me. And I used other words, which I'm not going to share with you. I couldn't believe it. We didn't have a spot big enough. And then they went across the state line. We were actually, as a city, thinking about suing them for doing that. That was an idiotic thing. And that didn't happen, of course. But the point is we need to be able to have the availability of these things. We need to work collaborative with all the different players in our area, as well as places, people like ITD, Transportation Department out of the United States for Tiger grants. And I use a word all the time. I tell you, you can catch a lot more flies with honey than you can vinegar. It works. And we just keep chewing away at it, ladies and gentlemen. I get kind of warm in Excited about this stuff. This is all good stuff, ladies and gentlemen. Let's talk about our sanitation master plan, recycling. This is one of the snafus we had with our bond. We actually wanted to do, we've been dinking around with the bond for 3 years, ladies and gentlemen. Starting at 3 years, actually 2.5 years. And and we went for a process for a while, and then we had our friends at Gritman that talked to us about possibly using a federal building, and that didn't work out, so we fooled around with almost a year on that. And then we started looking at sites, and one of the sites we're looking at is our recycling center. Well, before we can bring this to the public, we need to be able to figure out what we're going to do with the recycling center. Because, you see this here? That's our yard waste. And people mow their lawns and rake leaves, and that's where they take them. This street here is getting really, really busy, incidentally. This was built 25 years ago, and it's really obsolete, and this is actually kind of dangerous right here, right now. And then this over here is where you can go along if you wish, and we do have folks that like to do this. It's kind of a social event for them. They take their cans and their bottles and all their junk, and they can go in there, and you got like 8 of these bins, and they just go along and pitch them in, and they see each other, and they have a nice conversation. So we need to figure out what can we do with that. And then this part here, which we used to bale and crush them all up, we don't need it anymore because we do all the baling out at the landfill because that's where we ship it off. So we know what we need to do is we need to figure out where people can take their yard waste, as well as the folks that have been doing this for 25 years. But I'm going to give you some figures on our recycling. We went to single stream recycling. Since we started single stream recycling, and I'm not sure the exact date, that was in late 2016, Gary, early 2017. February, okay, our recycling's gone up 133% from what it was. 133%, ladies and gentlemen. Think about that. And it wasn't because of these guys. If we were still doing them, my guess would be we'd still be back in the doldrums because people were throwing too much stuff away. Yeah, maybe. And look, I'm much, much better at recycling than I once was. Just fair disclosure. Just want to share that with you. I have people that have trained me to throw everything in there that possible that I never thought about doing before. I always did paper and cardboard and the cans, but then all the other things like the cereal boxes and the plastic jugs that you had to rinse out. And, hey, I never really did that. But I did when we started going to single recycling because it was a big deal for us. So the point is it's working for us. We don't need this, and we know we don't need this, but we got to figure out what to do. Now, the problem is we've got to make sure we have answers for people about this in order to get our bond passed and why we're doing it. So we're going to have some, and those answers really won't come up until mid this year in the fall of 2018, and then we're going to have a series of community meetings so we can talk about this stuff, and then we'll go after it, and then we'll see if the community is willing to do this or not. And remember, I had talked earlier about our HELOC building, our HERC building, being paid off this summer. So we really don't own a bond. Yes, we have a revenue generating bond from the sewer plant, but the revenues that people pay for that. So, oh, by the way, I didn't tell, that was one of my favorite stories I forgot, Jen. We redid our sewer bonds. I know that's not very exciting to think about sewer bonds. But we had 8 years left on those sewer bonds. We hired a company to get these things at a better rate for us. We did this, I don't know how many months ago now, Gary, 4 months ago? December. Anyway, story is we saved $360,000 over 8 years. 360 grand. Now, doesn't that make sense to do things like that? Now, if you broke that down to a year, maybe that wouldn't seem like a whole lot of money. It'd be maybe 40,000, 45,000 a year. But every time you do a little bit, it can mount up so you can buy a fire truck or put a new restroom in or put a bridge in that you don't have money for. Does that make sense to you, ladies and gentlemen? Anyway, I wanted to share that with you. That's why we're waiting until 2019. Let's go to the bond thing next, Jen. And we know we need a new police department. My God, at one time, let's say City of Moscow, that's when the City Hall, when I first came here in 77, that was City Hall, Gary. Somewhere in there. Because I remember Paul Mann was the mayor back in those days. And then Don Mackin was there. And I've known every one of them since then. But anyway, and the police were crunched in down at the other end. And then we got the old post office. We were able to purchase that, and it's a wonderful, wonderful building. But we know we need to replace it. It's part of our infrastructure. What do we want to do with this? We want to remodel it so that we can put our engineering and public works and some of those folks in here. And then we want to take the man building, which they will move out of. We want to retrofit the man building, and we know that's going to cost us some money. And we want to put our IT, information services, there. You know, and we know that remodeling this thing's probably going to cost, I don't know, $900,000 or maybe $1 million, I don't know, something like that. But we know we're going to get the figures on all this stuff as we go along. The police department we know is going to be about $6.5 million. We think probably another $1 million for this thing, and then a couple of $100,000 for the man building. We thought the man building was obsolete and had some deficiencies and cracks in it, but lo and behold, we're able to plug a little mud in there somewhere, and it's going to be fine. So, is Jesse here? Is our IT guys here? Well, they're not here, so they won't know the difference. Everybody keep that in your hat, and we'll go, and we'll go on. Anyway, that's what why we're waiting to 2019 to do this. We want to make sure we get everything the way we want it. Now, with that, ladies and gentlemen, we got about 20 minutes. I'll open it up for questions. Whoops. Marshall?
Well, I'd like to say that I really appreciate everything you're doing and what the city's doing, and I really appreciate everything you're going to do in the future for us. There's a couple of things that you might have mentioned a little bit that I missed, but is there any word on the Thorn Creek to Moscow project? And also, where are we at with possible airport terminal renovation?
Thank you for that question, Marshall. The Thorn Creek 4-lane road in for the last 5. Okay, the question, ladies and gentlemen, is where are we with the Thorn Creek Road, the 4-lane that's going to come from about 4 or 5 miles out of town into Moscow? It's tied up in courts right now, Marshall. ITD's got the money saved. They got to decide, and it's just going to depend on the federal judge giving the green light on it. And I've talked to ITD, and they actually think it's going to happen, but I don't know any more than that. And as far as the terminal and the airport, yes, we're looking at some other things, some other options in that. We've got to get on board with some of our friends from the FAA, and actually I'll be at a board meeting on the 28th, Marshall, so I know Tony's going to do more of a presentation on that so we know what's going on. So, okay, lady back there.
Honorable Mayor Lambert, I'd just like you to reflect on one or two comments I made here. The Board of Education is in shambles. Nepotism is practiced here. I will check with Myron Trepp about McCoy Heating and Plumbing. McCoy Heating and Plumbing, they can shut it down. They refuse to help single women. We had a date they wouldn't install. They wouldn't come to my house when we needed. I just want to conclude my comments. The law protects your freedom to enjoy, explore, and enjoy the fruits of your labor forevermore. Your legal rights depend on what you have done, not on who you are or from what family you come. The story of Treasure Trove is spoken for. The University of Denver is going to clean up. I translated it into Spanish when the books were in the main library. Thank you very much.
Thank you for your comments. Come on, other questions? Yes, sir.
Could you give us an update on the ice rink?
Oh, the ice rink. Yes, the ice rink folks have had $1 million pledged to them by the city of Moscow through the Hamilton Fund. The thing for the ice rink is by June 28th of 2019, they have to be able to come up with a matching amount of that in order for them to be able to receive that. And it's my understanding that the ice rink folks have gotten a person that is a fundraiser for them, but I have no more update than that. So there you have it. Come on, you guys, ask me something tough. Yeah.
Well, I was wondering, can businesses donate park benches, or is it city purchase only?
No, people can donate them, and what I'll do, Heather, is have you talk to Gary here. But you know, one of the things on parkland dedication and trees, and this is something I told Park Supervisor Dwight Curtis. I said, God, when you get in a neighborhood, if you live in a new neighborhood, whether it's be the Morgan Orchard thing on Peekaboo Estates, I think people that would build there would love to be able to plant a tree and maybe put a bench in. And guess what? When you do that in neighborhoods, your neighborhood will police that park. I think that's critical. I think that's a big deal for us. So, of course, we can augment and help that, Heather, but I think that's a big thing for us to be able to do. Okay? Tony?
So I've been here for the last 13 years, and I've noticed in the last 5 years we've had increased population. It's like these are blooming. However, I noticed traffic and lack of parking. Are there any plans in the works for that?
Well, thank you for that question. Ladies and gentlemen, the traffic here in Moscow is going to continue to grow because our city's going to grow. That's one of the reasons we need east-west connectivity. And that's one of the reasons I think, even though there are some folks out there who do not like the bridge, it's going to be a good thing for us because it gives us at least 3 ways of getting in and getting out. The parking end of it, we're going to have to address sometime. I don't know if that means a parking garage. They're very spendy. The problem with the parking garage, most of them look really ugly. And so we'd have to come up with some kind of aesthetic so it'll look nice. But I think as we grow, ladies and gentlemen, make no mistake, we're going to grow. This state's growing 15%. Oh, by the way, Moscow, Idaho, and this is something I always fantasize about. We're kind of, I consider us the Silicon Valley of Idaho, especially North Idaho. And we are unique here. Now, we got some folks down south don't quite recognize it yet. And we need to work on that, which we're going to continue to do. We got the flagship University of Idaho here. And we've got a lot of things going for us, folks. And so with that, you're going to see growth. And guess what? We need growth. If you want to keep your business strong and prosper, you need growth. You need more folks. Well, that's good. We're going to run into a few headaches like that. We know we cannot be 1965. We can't be 1975. We can't be 1985. We need to be 2018 to move forward. And that's what we need to do. I'm very serious about that. Yes, sir.
So the 6th Street and Mountain View intersection, I know there was talk about doing a roundabout or something at one time. Is this 3rd Street punched through? Is that going to affect or change that?
Well, we'd love to put a roundabout. A roundabout is $750,000. And where we would get a roundabout will be if we can snag one of these Tiger grants I talked to you about, because we also need to replace the bridge at 3rd Street because it's an old culvert bridge. It was put in, 50 years ago maybe. And that bridge really needs to be replaced. And that kind of a bridge you can't build anymore because of the safety issues, and it doesn't qualify under that infrastructure. So if we can get a Tiger grant, that's what we're looking at, is a roundabout there, as well as a new bridge on 6th Street, as well as widen that out all the way. We'd love to be able to widen it out all the way from Highway 8 out to Mountain View Park. Someday that north end of town is going to grow. We know we got Logos School eventually is going to go out there. We also know eventually those properties out north are going to be into residential housing, and it's coming. Now, it's not going to come overnight. One of the things, kind of interesting, we struggle with having enough houses here in Moscow to sell. There are like 22 or 23 or something like that available, and which is really, really low. And we've got like 400 lots that are available for people to build on. The problem is the builders don't have enough people to build them. And so that's that happened with the crunch that we had in 08, 09, and 2010, as a lot of those folks got out of the construction business and went somewhere else to do something else. So that's going to take time to work through it. Now, I can tell you what my idea, if you want, and somebody asked me this question, it isn't what you asked, but it has to do with how you get cheaper housing. Build more houses. And I said to somebody, I said, you want cheaper houses? Build 500 of them. That wasn't very popular. But the point is, if you built that number of houses, yeah, you'd have cheaper prices. Now, they might not be the most elaborate places in the world, but that's how you do things. It's a supply-demand thing, and we've got an issue with that right now. Other questions? Thank you all very much. I enjoy this, one of my favorite days.